Namaste. Such a pleasure to be here. When I landed in Chile, I was picked up at the airport by Pablo. He was my driver for the day, and he was dropping me to the hotel. In the journey, he told me that he was once a racing car driver. He traveled and competed all around the world, but the sport was expensive, so he dropped out at 28, went to study geography, a few years later returned to racing, and now he doesn't do that anymore. But he often recollects the stories of that racing car career with his wife over dinner table. Tempted, I asked Pablo, what did that life teach you? What is your life lesson? And Pablo, without taking a pause, said, I like to believe that we should all collect stories. And there is a difference between the moment and the experience. The moment is just this, what's happening. The experience, he said, is much bigger. It's grander. And when we pay attention to the experience, we can take the essence of it in many different experiences. That's a pretty profound life lesson to get from an airport drive to the hotel. But I know that it is important because my mother taught me that. My mother taught me that wisdom is everywhere. She was pulled out of school in grade 5 by her grandmother, who didn't want her to study with boys or study at all. When I was growing up, my mother would tell my sister and I, you should study because you have resources and opportunities. And I used to think, but my mother is so wise, she's so smart. How does she know so much if she never went to school? My mother's answer was, life is my classroom. I am learning from living. And to my 14-year-old brain, that meant if she was learning from living, that means everyone who's living is learning something. And so I treated the world as a library where you could borrow people like books, open them up, get a life lesson, read, imbibe, and study everybody that you could meet. The world is full of people, my mother said, whose lenses are unique than yours. And if you choose to look through them, you will learn something that all your money and power cannot afford you. And so I thought, wow, isn't that amazing? There are 8 billion people in the world. That means there are 8 billion ways to see the world. There are 8 billion people who have fallen in love, 8 billion people who want something, 8 billion people who've made a mistake, 8 billion people who have learned something. 8 billion of us. And so I spent all my teenage years, since the age of 14, collecting life lessons of people from all around the world, from every single country, 195 countries. And I documented those lessons and stories and tried to pass them on. As an educator, I wanted to share that wisdom in classrooms. So I designed those lessons into educational curriculums, and I traveled the world teaching it. The methodology became one of the world's top 100 innovations in education. But it taught me that everybody has wisdom. Everybody. It's not just a factor of age. It's a factor of experience. Even a 4-year-old has experience of a 4-year-old, if you respect it. And so, you might ask yourself, in this age of AI, when everybody's saying, what will AI be? What will wisdom be? Science has now proven that wisdom is not an abstract virtue of religion and philosophy. It is actually a super skill that's made of 6 sub-skills. It's perspective taking, adopting and learning from different point of views. It is dealing with uncertainty. It is being able to reflect. It is being able to manage your emotions. It is being able to have practical skills, filing your taxes. But most importantly, wisdom is being able to care for other people. An intelligent person may think about the common good. A wise person has to think about common good. to quote this beautiful phrase by the Greek philosopher Epictetus. He says, "For even sheep do not vomit up the grass that they have eaten to show the shepherds how much they have eaten. They actually digest it and produce wool and milk." So if information, watching all the TikToks, the Instagrams, the Google, the ChatGPTs, is our grass, wisdom is our wool and milk. And we show it through actions, we show it through our ideas, we show it through our behavior. And relationships are a primary surface area, are a primary place where this wisdom is tested and nurtured, whether that's relationship with self, relationships with people we love, relationship with the community we have, or relationship with the world we are part of. These relationships need wisdom as a skill and a resource. Many years ago, in India, I was traveling on the subway, and I asked a woman, "What's your life lesson?" And she said, "If your face can surprise you in the mirror every morning, you're still having a good life." I thought to myself, how do I teach that as a teacher? So I took mirrors, very small mirrors, into a classroom, and I gave it to my students, these tiny mirrors. And I asked them to discover 40 new things about their face in less than 4 minutes. Some of them counted their eyelashes, some of them their teeth, some of them their pimples, and some of them just paid attention to who they were. One girl at the end of the class wrote me the letter and said, "I thought my smile does not suit me, but after the session, I learned it looks awesome on my face." That woman on the subway was able to help this girl in the classroom without ever meeting her, by telling her how her self-worth was much more than people's ideas of what her smile looked like. This cross-pollination of wisdom is an important thing, not just for yourself, but for people you love in your life. Here's another story I love. It's the story of Sunita Garware. I met her on a flight. You can imagine, I'm either a very annoying co-passenger or a really interesting one. I have a lot of questions to ask. So I asked Sunita, what is the lesson she learned? And she said her father-in-law was a very interesting man. Whenever the grandchildren brought their drawings to the grandfather, he just didn't look and say, "Good job, put it on the refrigerator on the wall." He actually looked at it and asked more questions. "Oh, there are a 3-story house. Who lives on the top floor? There's a tree. What fruit grows on the tree? Where does this river originate? Where does that bird go?" All those questions allowed for the children to know this person cared. There was reliability, there was credibility, and there was interest. The lesson she taught me was, be genuinely interested in other people's stories and work, and that forms a deep connection and shows great care. The relationship we extend to ourselves and the people around also extend to the world we live in. Social change needs wisdom more than ever before. When I work with communities, rural, indigenous communities, urban communities, I try to see them as a collaborator, not a beneficiary. And the only way to make somebody a collaborator is to know they too know something that you don't know, and to value their wisdom. In my work in India, I live in a state where there are 1,700 ghost villages. That means a lot of people have migrated out due to climate change or economic migration. One such village was 600-year-old Sword. Out of 200 families that used to live there, only 12 were left behind in 2016 when I visited the village. I collaborated with the village, and I traced all the 200 families that lived in this village. I collected their lessons and their stories with my team. And then with the 12 families in the village and a bunch of volunteers, we hand-painted every single ghost abandoned house in the village. This became world's first village of life lessons. world's first village where you could move from any lane to any lane and read people's stories and learn from these lives, their culture, their histories. This work expanded to other places. People were curious about this model that just didn't document wisdom, it celebrated it. This is another village on the foothills of a glacier. No roads, no electricity, no internet. Living there was like living in the 16th century. I had forgotten what a car honk sounds like, how a light feels on the eye. And so with my team again, I documented the wisdom of the people and hand-painted it across every house. The village now has roads, electricity, and internet. And you know why? Because these artworks, this celebration of wisdom, allowed people to pay attention to the challenges in the village. I could write papers, I could do campaigns, but I could also celebrate the people who actually still live there. In Tanzania, where I've been working for the last 6 years, I met women who walk 9 hours for water every day. 9 hours. And so I wanted to do the same thing, build a community center, document their wisdom, but it wouldn't solve the problem of water. So I invited a bunch of people from around the world to come and paint the village with me. Amongst those volunteers were 2 high school students from California. They were in middle school, Roshan and Yuvraj Taneja. They walked with the women, and so inspired were they that when they came back to California, they raised over the next 4 years $160,000 and built 275 water harvesting units that has cut down the walking time of women by 8 hours and has increased the household income by 50,000 Tanzanian shillings. Those are just 2 high school students making social impact to 15,000 Maasais. And I say that there are 2 children because we don't value the wisdom of children in the world. We think wisdom comes with gray hair and wrinkled face. But wisdom is all around in children because wisdom is not passed down, it's passed around. This is the young boy I met in Belgium. He's a 6-year-old boy, and his life lesson is, before you learn how to ride a bike, learn where the brakes are. There's another life lesson from a guy talking about the refugee crisis. He's 12 years old, and he writes, no matter where, even in the darkest cave, there is hope. Here's another lesson, advice for adults, from a student of mine in Pittsburgh. She says, I think adults should think more about the positive things in life. Sometimes my mom will get upset when it's raining, but children will think how it's free car wash. Adults should think more of this and practice for being happier in life. Children have a perspective and a lens. This is one from Chile. I documented this in 2020. Learn to search like moms do. They don't give up. They are professional seekers. That's from an 11-year-old Heron Villoria in Chile. The wisdom around you. We document this wisdom, these stories, because I feel and know through my work and research that we now need education spaces and systems, learning systems, that don't only teach for intelligence. Machines will be intelligent, don't worry about that. Human beings have to be something more. And that obvious organic more is wisdom. We have to design classrooms that are infused with stories, anecdotes, perspectives from a global lens. We have to cultivate and engage and encourage people, young people, to engage with people unlike them, to go beyond the algorithm that keeps showing us the same thing like us, to meet people you would never talk to, never say hi to, and learn from them. And in that, expand your perspectives. We need this wisdom in many ways because we need to be able to empower ourselves and the world for what is to come. We may have very soon the answers of what AI will be, but we have to ask ourselves, what will we be as human beings? Whose wisdom counts and who counts as wise? Why is your grandmother's wisdom not in the school textbook? She lived a long life. She didn't have to create a company or a startup and be Miss World. Where does your mother's wisdom go? Where does your wisdom go? We collect these wisdoms and we display it in classrooms with students. We allow them to document these stories and put wisdom as a skill up front. Children ask all sort of questions, but adults need to ask themselves too. Why are we here and what do we do? And so, my work now builds, in many ways, a gym for wisdom, a space for wise play that promotes 3 wisdom capacities: perspective richness, emotional regulation, and context sensitivity. Perspective richness is knowing how other people think beyond yourself. Emotional regulation is to be able to deal with situations with neutrality. No high spectrum of anger, no high spectrum of joy, some balance, some grounding in most difficult life situations. And life is difficult, as we all know. Context sensitivity. What should you say? If I fall down on stage right now, you know all the language, but what words will you use to help me feel better? That context sensitivity is what we need to train ourselves into. The world is full of stories. The world is full of your stories. And I hope that we can democratize wisdom. For far too long, it has sat on a pedestal, and someone is wise, saint, grandparents. We have to bring that wisdom to the pedestrian and see it in each other, in Pablo, in my mother, in your friend, in your girlfriend, in your parent. And you have to ask yourself, what do I know? You know, human beings called our species Homo sapiens. That's the name for our species. And you know what does that translate to? Wise human. I think it is time to be one now. I think it is time to start. Thank you very much. And I asked my host as they come in, turn to the person next to you and tell them your life lesson very quickly. Thank you.